At Good Game Studios, I'm working as a vector artist, and I'm there for 7 years now. I remember that the very first thing I worked on was not really an official task, so to say, but more a task to get used to the style and just get familiar to the graphic style of the game. And I remember working on a building. The theme was completely free. So it was just really just to get familiar to the style. Yeah, this was never implemented in the game. I think I remember working on my first character for the game. I remember putting a lot of effort into this task because characters are always used for in a more marketing way somehow. So it's meant to be appealing to the players. And so, yeah, the first character I worked on was a pretty big deal for me. So it was a female knight with the red hair. It was part of a block of 3 characters which were released at the same time. And yeah, this was good fun. First one would be an illustration, because like usually when you work on assets for the game, it's like most of the time it's either a character or a building or icons, or but not really like a full illustration. And I had to do one once for illustrating a dialogue, like an UI dialogue. This was interesting in a way that it was a different approach, because you have other things to think of when it comes to the use of colors and and all those things. And it was actually the first time I did that using Illustrator back in the days. Another piece which was more of a challenge in a way that the deadline was pretty tight and the piece was pretty big, and I'm not even sure it's in the game. But yeah, this piece took me 3 weeks of intensive work. Yeah. I tend to, of course, think of the one I made myself because there is a different personal investment. I remember working on one, like a lady wearing a wooden armor with horns for the summer event. I really had good fun working on her because I tried something that I really haven't tried before. So I learned something working on it in the treatment of the light. That's also difficult to say because it's tough to think of something that would fit a game that is that old and working for so many years now. But this is actually something we already discussed back in the days with the team, and I would think it would be cool to have a system where the players could be a bit more invested in the personalization of their profile. So what they could have an avatar, or they could create their own character basically in the game. I tend to think that my process is very personal somehow, because I'm not really into having a lot of different sketches. I usually stick to maybe 2 or 3 sketches, which I basically sketch on Photoshop. And I don't really need colors, or in my sketches it's really just a rough idea, which I then develop during the vectorizing process on Illustrator. So this is the way I'm the most comfortable working on. In my opinion, what is the most important is to make sure that it is going to blend well with the rest of the assets that we already have. And this goes by making sure that the scale of the element is accurate, that the scale of the textures is also working well. I know, for instance, I used to use doors and windows as a reference. So if I use a door in a building, I'm gonna make sure that the entrance of the building is gonna be the same size as the one next to it. So yeah, I stick to doors and windows as a size reference. Well, this is a job that is based on a hobby, right? So it's cool because every day is the same without really being the same, because the mood is going to change regarding what you are working on. Well, in normal times, you go to the office and you arrive at 10 and you leave at 6, and yeah. But your journey along the day is going to be different regarding what you are working on, and it's going to be always different. So I would say that that's the coolest thing about this job.